Hey guys, I just discovered this MVRV ratio. I explained it in my previous video, um, but I want to show you guys some interesting observations. Uh, the conclusion is that well, today I think Zcash and Dash, to a lesser extent, are great investments because um, they are both very undervalued from an MVRV ratio perspective, meaning most investors, no, on average, investors are seriously underwater there with ZAC and Dash, and usually there is a very good indicator, at least in the past, that there is a great opportunity. Mm, but of course, it's also in combination with fundamentals that are very important because, of course, something can become very undervalued and still go to zero if it has bad fundamentals. But I think coins like ZEC and Dash are have good fundamentals to survive in the long term. But I really love this chart by coinmetrics.io. You can play with it. First, let me show you the basics. So let me first explain the MVRV quickly. So I also explained in the previous video, but you can see it very nicely here. The MVRV is dividing the realized cap over the actual market cap, and the realized cap, you can see here, the red goes up, but it goes up slower than the actual market cap. And when you have a bear market, it typically also does not go down. The realized cap stays flat, stays flat here the whole way, stays flat here the whole way. Only during bull markets it goes up. But what's very interesting is that from time to time in a bear market, the actual market cap goes below the realized cap, and then you can say that people are underwater on average. They paid more for their coins than the actual market value there. And that's usually, in the past, has been a very good indicator that the bottom is in. Of course, and also what's very good about this indicator is it always goes less, so it shows a lower volatility over time. That's very of course, encouraging because it fits with the logic that indeed volatility should be going down with the higher a market cap goes. And that's a little bit the problem with logarithmic regression that I've been using a lot for my analysis, that like undervaluation compared to the logarithmic regression goes up over time, and that should not be the case. That shows that there is a problem with the chart. It shows that there's a problem with that logarithmic regression because it shouldn't be that undervaluation goes up over time. That should not be the case. So it means that the line is not drawn very well. But you don't have this problem with the MVRV, at least up until today. Like for example, the bust or the bear market in 2011, the MVRV or the realized cap or the actual market cap went below the realized cap, and actually that's the MVRV ratio. If you take this, this will show you actually how much it went, how much the market cap went below the realized cap. There's this one here down. At the bottom of the bear market in 2015 January, we went to a realized cap of 0.64. But in the bottom of 2011, we went to a realized an MVRV of 0.41. And so there is more undervaluation in the first bear market compared to the second bear market, where the MVRV bottomed out at 0.6 instead of 0.4. And this was also what then Owen Wonder predicted for the next bear market, and that we would probably bottom a little higher than the 0.4. Sorry, the 0.6 was almost 0.7. We would bottom out higher, so probably around 0.8 or so. And what did we do? Well, at the bottom we went to 0.8. 0.77 was the bottom. I mean, and will likely be the bottom also in the future. We will likely, in my opinion, not make a new low for Bitcoin Core and not go below the 3,150. So if you want to decide when to buy, actually the moment it goes below 1, the MVRV, it's a great time to start buying. And if you want to buy at the bottom, you have to estimate how low does MVRV go. And indeed, if you estimate it will be a little bit higher than the previous one, you set it at 0.8, you would have catched the bottom. You would have bought Bitcoin around 4,000 or 3,500. So that was a great indicator to act on. But I believe that even though the bottom is in, there probably are still opportunities in the smaller coins, because Bitcoin has had such a rally and gained a lot of market share again, from a bottom of 33% to now to 70%, is dropped back to 66%. But that means there's probably still many opportunities in other smaller coins, probably the top coins first. And indeed, this also is what you see on this chart. So if we just isolate the MVRV here, MVRV. So this is for Bitcoin. Here you can see the bottom. In the first bear market, we went to an undervaluation of 0.4. Or people were underwater, about 60% on average. Here people were underwater about 40% on average in the bear 2015, and in the bear of 2018 at the bottom people were about 30% underwater at the bottom, around 3,150 on average. That means on average people paid about 5,000 per Bitcoin core, but it went to 3,000. But what's the situation, for example, with Bitcoin Cash, my favorite coin? Well, in Bitcoin Cash, is it still below 1? That's always a great thing, because if it's below 1, it means people are on average underwater, and it's a great investment. That was the case with Bitcoin, BTC, and will also be the case with other coins. And indeed, Bitcoin Cash actually made a much lower low. It didn't bottom out at 0.7 MVRV ratio. It bottomed out at 0.25. And so much lower. That means that on average, Bitcoin Cash investors were underwater when Bitcoin Cash bottomed at $70 there. On average, people were like 75% underwater. We went above 1, but now we went back below 1. We went from 1 to now we are at 0.8. So on average today, Bitcoin Cash is valued at $210. On average, people are today about 20% underwater. So that's very interesting. It means it's a good investment right now. But of course it can go deeper. It has gone deeper at the bottom, but we can't expect these lows to be seen again. If you look at the previous bear market, MVRV went sideways and then up, but we should compare mostly with 2011. MVRV went up above 1 also, and then it went also again below 1. So the peak was at 1.3 or so for Bitcoin Core in 2011. So people are 60% underwater, then they go back to about 30% above water, and then they go back to about 20% underwater again. It also basically, you could say, went only as low as about 0.4, so 60% underwater for the most part of the bottom here, just like here, 60% underwater for Bitcoin Core, here for Bitcoin Cash also, with the exception of a very short period here of 2 weeks or so. But then it went above water to about 0.4, 40% in profit, and now back to 0.8. Very similar to what happened here. But other coins that I find interesting is Dash and ZAC. What you can see here is that, and as for illustration purpose, also a little Litecoin. What you can see is that at the bottom of the bear market in 2014, in January, you can see indeed that the smaller coins go to a much higher undervaluation. For example, Dash bottoms here also, the green line at 0.4, so 60% underwater, similar to what Bitcoin did in 2011. And then went, but Litecoin, for example, went to 0.12, so like extremely underwater. Litecoin was the second biggest coin then, after Ripple, the third. But yeah, still people went massively underwater. Recent bear market, all these coins didn't bottom. So LTC, for example, didn't go so low. Dash actually went to the same lows, actually higher. Dash used to bottom at 0.4, but now it bottoms at 0.2. So Dash went to a higher undervaluation in this bear market compared to previous bear market. But it was a new coin then. But you can see here that both Dash and ZEC today are at historically low valuations from this perspective, and I think that's an opportunity, because that means that on average today, Dash and ZEC investors are at a loss of 70% on average. That's huge. This is almost the same level as we saw at the bottom, when Dash and ZEC were half their valuation of what they are today about. Well, let's check that out. No, but I think this is an opportunity. Yeah. Of course, not like. It's also interesting to see that Litecoin, for example, and Bitcoin Cash are not such a big opportunity today compared to these two. They are undervalued similarly. And indeed, Bitcoin Core is not an opportunity today because it's above 1. You want to see the average investor to be underwater before you can say there's an opportunity. That's not the case today with Bitcoin Core. But the opportunity might have been missed there. Like from this chart, it's likely actually Bitcoin Core will not go below 1 anymore. So let me isolate the Dash and ZCash, and also show the price. Compare with the price. So right now, Dash is $70 and Zcash is $35, and at the bottom, Zcash was $50. So Zcash is today lower in price than it was at the bottom of the crypto bear market. That's crazy. How is that possible? That ZEC has gone down in fiat value, whereas most other coins have gone up. Dash was $60 here, still 60 today. So or 70. Like Dash and ZEC have done very, very poorly the past year, compared to, for example, Bitcoin Cash bottomed at $70, but today it's at $210. So it's a lot higher. Litecoin also. Litecoin bottomed at, let's see, Litecoin was $22, and now it's $50, so doubled, almost tripled. So that's not an opportunity. But today, Dash and ZEC, especially ZEC, is. Why? Well, ZEC went down in price. That's just unbelievable. Where Bitcoin Core went from 3,000 to like today 8,000, Zcash went from $50 to $30. So instead of like tripling or doubling, more than doubling, it actually halved. So how is that possible? I studied a little bit Zcash. I've been a fan of Zcash since it launched. I've invested it from time to time, but never really big and never really long. But Zach is a controversial project, but because it's get put down a lot by the Monero community, who is spreading a lot of FUD about it, a lot of false information, uncertainty, and doubt. But Zach has great privacy technology, and has actually a business model. Same with Dash. A piece of the inflation goes to pay for development and marketing, and that's, I think, a great innovation that Dash was the first to implement, and Zcash copied. But there has been controversy because for Zcash it was meant to stop after 4 years, which I always found very weird. Like, why would you stop your business model that is functioning well after 4 years? Makes no sense to me. And they've come to the same conclusion in Zcash, but it did disappoint the investors who were hoping for it to stop because yeah, the foot is that this is not actually a business model, but it's a taxation model. Of course, that's not true. This is not a taxation model. They call it a developer tax, as if paying your developers is a tax. No, it's not a tax, of course. Huh? The way it works in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum is that development and marketing is paid with voluntary donations, and we've seen that can also go very badly for Bitcoin Core. There was not enough money to pay for the Bitcoin developers, and that in combination with probably some evil forces has caused that the project got hijacked. Like, who's gonna donate? Because the ones that donate for development to yeah, I mean, they pay the bill for something that should be paid by all participants, all shareholders or all coin holders should pay a piece of the bill that is always there to have quality development and quality marketing. But when it works voluntarily, that means that only a few people pay that, and the ones that donate. But I do believe this model can work, and that's why I still believe strongly in Bitcoin Cash. But you really need to nurture a culture of donations, and that's actually not happening very well in Bitcoin Cash. For example, recently there was a fundraiser that did very well for Bitcoin Cash. It was about 400 Bitcoin Cash, no, 1,000 Bitcoin Cash raised in 1 month, 2 months or so, or 3 months. But yeah, the way it went was that, for example, the largest receiver of donations was the ABC team, led by Amari Isheshe. And well, he didn't even say thank you for the 400 Bitcoin Cash he got. And then there was issues around like that he couldn't use the money because the AML was not done properly by Roger Ver, who had organized it, and so there was frustrations around that. So I mean, it's a problem, and Amaury Seche, who is like the biggest developer in Bitcoin Cash, has been complaining about a lack of donations. But then there are donations, and then he's complaining about that it's not was not organized well, and he can't use the funds. I seen there seems to be a real problem there. Like, and also, like, the donations were raised thanks to Roger Ver, who organized it. So it's quite an effort to set all this up and have it run smoothly. Probably a much better idea is to have a business model, a real business model, where actually a piece of there is just a constant flow of money to pay for these things, and you don't have to like ask for it, ask for donations. No, you're just getting a piece of the profits, or like it just that's only normal. That's how company runs things, and that's how Dash and Zach also run it. I think it's much better, but it's not valued yet. Huh? People mock this business model. It is of great value, I believe, and I believe Zcash will indeed transform into will have it continuously in the future, which is very good. but it got punished for doing so, and that's an opportunity. And of course, yeah, Zcash has many other qualities that you don't have easily in the cryptocurrency world. It is a privacy coin that is adopted. Like if you look at what can you pay in with different merchants or donations, uh, uh, um, uh, ZAC often is an option, and it's the only privacy option. Of course, sometimes you have Monero too, but yeah, Monero is for me not an option. The community is way too poisonous to invest in that coin. Even though they are today the leading privacy coin, I don't believe that will last with such a culture. But ZAC actually doesn't have a poisonous culture. It has a very good and healthy culture, and it is the second biggest privacy coin after Monero. But likely over time will do very well. And it is very cheap today. So my plan is to on the next if we make a next correction to I hope that we reach like 6,000 US dollars for Bitcoin Core. My plan is then to invest also in not in Bitcoin Core but in Zcash, and of course also in Bitcoin Cash. That I think is also a great opportunity. Thanks for watching.